I say that life as a man is exceptionally difficult.
Men tested ideas and that women tested men.
If you spend a bit of time online, you've probably stumbled across content like this, especially if you're a young male.
If he wants a sandwich,
you make daddy a sandwich.
This hyper-masculine or manosphere content is part of a culture that's been bubbling away for a while now, and it's growing.
According to a recent study from Dublin City University, social media algorithms are playing a huge role in amplifying and spreading misogynistic and male supremacist content. By setting up 10 experimental accounts across TikTok and YouTube Shorts on 10 blank smartphones, researchers found that all of the male-identified accounts were being fed masculinist, anti-feminist and extremist content, without ever searching for it. And 4 of the accounts that showed interest in the content recorded a nearly 80% increase in toxic content over just 8 rounds of scrolling.
The economy of these platforms is attention. Someone saying, this is how you become a top G, this is how you become a success, look at my amazing car. Women below us, they are inflammatory things, and people listen to those things because not only are they inflammatory, but also they might speak to some existing fears they have about their position in the world or feelings they have about their position in the world.
And many people now worry it could be leading to bigger and more dangerous things. So how is it influencing young people here in Australia?
To find out, I sat down with some students to talk about their experiences.
So are you guys seeing misogynistic or hyper-masculine content online?
I do sometimes come across it, mostly on social media, Instagram, TikTok.
Especially on Instagram, often in the form of like reels or jokes, I guess.
I have heard of a lot of podcasts as well, like on Spotify or any of those other podcast streaming platforms.
They need to become men.
Yes, they certainly.
I have definitely seen it, like places like Snapchat Spotlights, Instagram Reels, like stuff like that. It's like mostly motivational jokes and memes, stuff like that.
Researchers reckon this content is dramatically changing the way young men view women in their lives by creating narratives or scripts about things like women having an unfair advantage, feminism taking power away from men, and women being biologically inferior and existing to service men.
A woman must learn, and the easiest path is to obey.
The other thing that is a problem here is the misframing of gender equity and feminism, and to sort of frame feminism as the enemy of boys is just actually untrue, because feminism is about challenging patriarchy, and patriarchy harms boys too.
When you saw this content, what did you think about it? What sort of ideas do you think they're pushing onto young men in particular?
I think it's very hateful. It definitely does teach young men to almost repress their feelings, hide it away from themselves, as if it's a benefit for themselves.
We kind of have this idea that we should conform to what other people kind of expect of us as well. So when we see this kind of content, even though you know it's wrong, like doubt crawls in, and it kind of makes you feel like, oh, maybe it would be better and easier for me to stay in a kitchen.
Cook.
We found that this problem is widespread among schools in Australia, from schools in like coastal towns in Queensland to elite schools in cities like Sydney and Melbourne. And the women who spoke to us, their stories about what's happening in their classrooms were all very similar.
I definitely see it in schools, like our school, other schools, like I've seen it almost everywhere.
Definitely hearing like around the school and outside public, like, oh, I'm an Andrew Tate fan, I agree with that. And like, I just sat there and I'm like, do you know what that man says?
My eyes leaked as I achieved.
I think it's more of a almost pandemic of young men seeing the world wrong, and it's going to get a whole lot worse. And I definitely see it in this school. I definitely see it in other schools too.
How does that make you feel as a woman?
Well, it definitely puts me down a bit because, like, obviously we've come so far with feminism and women's rights and stuff from where we were like 50 years ago. And to see all these like misogynistic comments come back into time, it makes me feel disappointed. It makes me scared as well of, I don't know, men sometimes, definitely.
The reason why I came to like a co-ed school was so that I would be able to interact with all these different types of people. But then I feel very put down or like let down that I have to be treated this way when I come to school. I feel very, very unsafe because the level of comments that it can start off very like basic, right? Still like hurtful, but then there's also a very extreme level where it genuinely just makes me feel like I don't want to walk here by myself. So yeah, angry, disappointed, concerned, and very unsafe. It makes me feel uncomfortable.
An organisation at the forefront of tackling this issue in schools is Tomorrow Man.
We run preventative workshops. Our aim is to break down old school gendered stereotypes and create emotional muscle for our participants. The stereotype is still there that, guys want to get all the girls and, they want to be a dominant person. They don't want to be looked over. But that's not everyone in the room. There's all types, of guys.
But Tom says it's tough because these creators are selling an image of masculinity in a way that plays on natural fears and desires.
And I think a lot of guys are a bit lost at the moment. They find themselves searching for answers on what it does mean to be a guy and how you do have purpose. And that's where they end up, in the manosphere.
Well, I guess it kind of provides the illusion of giving younger men like a sense of community. It almost fosters like a purpose. And then when you look deeper into it, it's more just being misogynistic, doing stuff that isn't really the best for your repressing feelings. As I said earlier, young men don't see that. They're just blinded by the glamour of that life.
I'm saying things to a 17-year-old boy and he's going, he makes sense.
But the other thing is, especially like if their friends are watching those like videos, they're going to be watching those videos because they're trying to fit in, because that's kind of what every teenager does.
Some people might say, well, is it so bad? I mean, young people getting the motivation. Well, in order to be a success, you do not actually have to have these things that these people are saying. And I would hate to see success measured by dominating over others, especially women or people who are marginalised.
We know that if you hold to rigid stereotypes, you're more likely to be involved in violent sexual encounters. You're more likely to end up lonely. You're more likely to end up with mental distress because you're unwilling to ask for help because it doesn't align with that rigid stereotype, or accept help when it's offered.
This isn't an issue falling on deaf ears though. As part of a host of changes announced last week to help protect women in Australia, the government says they'll be introducing new legislation to ban violent pornography, age restrict some online services, and a new Stop It at the Start anti-violence campaign, counter-influencing misogynistic content in online spaces.
I don't think it's really going to do much. If you want to find this content because it's speaking to you in a particular way, you can easily find it.
It's a knee-jerk reaction because they're feeling the heat, of people asking for a change.
No matter how many like anti-ads and stuff you put up on TikTok or Instagram, it's never gonna change their minds.
I think that the bigger issue than Tate is why young men are ending up searching for those answers.
What are the grievances they have? What are the feelings they have about their role and position in society? And how do we address those feelings and those grievances and support people?
My perception of masculinity is just like being the best you can, like respecting women, respecting others, but like still doing the stuff that's necessary to get there.
I think good masculinity, and just masculinity in general, is the idea of empowering yourself through your behavior, understanding your thoughts, understanding your emotions, being able to control them, being able to be respectful.
We need to embrace feminine traits. We need to be able to emote. We need to be able to connect at depth, to have good quality conversations.
How do you think we deal with this? Good way to do that would just be through education, just similar to how they've got sexual education classes.
It's not telling like young men to be soft, it's like telling them to be strong, but when you need the help, get the help that you need for it.
And I also believe that social media should have at least some accountability.
I feel like we've got a big job to do to say, where are the role models of a healthy masculinity? And where are we actually investing the time and resource, the money, to say, hey, we're going to give our young people the social and emotional skills they need for a high quality life.